Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast for April 20th, 2014. This is episode 61, and I'm JD Duran.
Of James Shaw.
And this week on the show, we gave Blake the week off as he is out of town visiting family for Easter. But as with last week, our other writer, James Shaw, for the InSession Film website is here, as well as other things. Welcome back, James. Thanks for being here.
No problem. Glad to be back. Are we sure Blake is out doing Easter things? Say it's 420. I'm just saying.
That's true. It is 420, which is kind of weird being on Easter, but he claims that he's off doing family stuff, so I'll believe him. But yeah, thanks again for being here. As I mentioned, you do write for us, but I know you do other things on the internet as well. So again, tell us a little bit about where people can find you on the internet.
You can find me. My personal website right now is screenhumor.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Comedic Critic, and also, of course, on InSession Film. You can also find me.
Awesome.
So a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week, James, this is going to be a really fun show, going off of a big theme, I think, for me this week. But this week on the show, we're going to be discussing Transcendence, starring a paintless face of Johnny Depp, which should be pretty fun. Moving from that, we're going to be discussing our top 3 directorial debuts, and then we're going to move into a second review this week, where we're going to be discussing a small film that kind of came out kind of recently that has the internet going into a frenzy trying to figure out what the heck it's all about. And we're going to be discussing Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which I really, really look forward to getting into. I actually haven't discussed it yet with anybody, so James, you'll be the first. It should be a lot of fun. And of course, we'll finish off the show as usual, discussing films we got to see over the last week. But before we get into any of that, James, how was your week, man?
Week has been good. I just wish that the Red Wings today would have played a lot better. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
But, like I said, when you play with that movie 43 script, I guess you don't have much options. So.
That's true.
How about yourself, G?
Well, outside of that, though, is pretty disappointing. Although I'm just glad that we are in the playoffs because the Red Wings were so hit or miss throughout the regular season that I'm just glad that we're here. But outside of that, I had a really good week. We finally got Brandy's wedding band all situated. I got my ring all situated as well. So on the wedding front, things are pretty much done, just waiting for people to respond whether they're coming or not. So that was good. And outside of that, we also recorded an extra film earlier this week where I had Matthew from Simplistic Reviews and Matt Oakes from Silver Screen Riot join me, and we reviewed Dom Hemingway as well as Joe, starring Nicolas Cage and Ty Sheridan. So be sure and go and check that out if you haven't got a chance to listen to that yet. That was a pretty fun conversation I had with those fellas. And outside of that, James, this week was kind of weird in terms of theme because I feel like I just watched a lot of movies that seemed very, very strange, and it's kind of weird. So we'll see that theme play out through this show, which should be kind of fun. But I'm excited to get into it. We're going to start off with Transcendence. Let's get into it.
And here we go.
You're listening to the InSession Film Podcast. This is episode 61. I don't know about you, James, but if I could do Transcendence, the first thing I would do is go straight to Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph, if it was up to me, although I don't like the movie Frozen, I think I have to go that route.
So these are state-of-the-art quantum processors. You won't find faster computational power anywhere else in the world.
Good evening, Dr. Tagger.
See an old faculty pictures of you.
Good evening, Donald Buchanan.
It knows me.
Of course it does. DMV records, social media.
Penn? Tell Agent Buchanan about yourself.
I am Pin, a physically independent neural network invented by Dr. Will Castor.
Can you prove that you are self-aware?
That's a difficult question, Dr. Tagger. Can you prove that you are?
All right, Transcendence is directed by Wally Pfister and stars Johnny Depp, Rebecca Hall, Morgan Freeman, Paul Bettany, among a few other people as well. Kate Mara, a favorite of mine as of recently. So James, let's get into this. This is kind of a crazy film, getting bashed by critics big time. But I think it's already a winner in some ways because it features a regular face Johnny Depp, and we haven't seen that in what I feel like a decade. So that's kind of interesting. But outside of that, what did you think about the movie Transcendence?
See, where to start? This is how I interpret Transcendence. I know you named all the cast, but I like to picture them as who they really are. So we have Maya Hansen, we have Vision, we have Invisible Woman, we have a whole bunch of Marvel and DC people. When you look at it like that, I think the film makes tremendous sense because, Vision's there, he creates this guy, gets transcended, but as far as the movie goes, the movie has a good premise. I think it needed to be about 500 hours long to really explain a lot of the logic flaws that the film has. But yeah, you're right. Seeing Johnny Depp was refreshing. I mean, I almost didn't know what he looked like until I saw the trailer. I was like, wow, that's Johnny Depp.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I mean, I appreciate where they were going. It's definitely a good concept. Kind of gets you thinking a little bit. But yeah, the story was just flawed because it's such little time to kind of tell the story. But yeah, seeing Johnny Depp was very refreshing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. What's interesting about this film is the fact that we get a first-time director in Wally Pfister, who's been a longtime cinematographer. He's really known for working alongside Christopher Nolan, and I feel like you do get a good sense of that here, especially visually. He definitely brings his strengths to his film there. And to me, I don't know if you felt this way, James, but a lot of these scenes kind of felt like I was watching a lot of the same elements happening from like Inception or something like that. It had that kind of feel to me. So you were kind of already engaged with what he was doing in terms of his camera movements. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot here I really enjoyed outside of some of the performances. As you mentioned, it was refreshing to see Johnny Depp back to his regular face, to see him kind of acting as a normal person, at least in some sense. Now, he does kind of get his crazy character stuff going on when he actually is transcended into the internet, I guess. But still, he's still regular faced, and he's pretty much a regular person throughout. I think the one thing that really defines this film for me, and I think this is somewhere where we can spend some time here, James, is that there is a lot of flaws logically here within the script. Like, none of it seems to make sense. As you mentioned, it probably should be 500 hours long to really explain what's going on. I feel like you have to throw all of that outside of the window to kind of enjoy this film. And I had a hard time with that. I do think the first act of the script is pretty interesting. I actually had a pretty good time with them kind of setting up this world that is being created here. Obviously, they're introducing us to a lot of technology and kind of where that's going, especially in terms of artificial intelligence and things like that. But, and I'll throw this to you, to me, once that is set up, there are so many plot holes here that I feel like it was hard for me to be engaged because my mind was like, that just doesn't make sense with what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably where I would start is the whole Sue Storm's Rift Group. They were logically everything they did made zero sense. They're so against technology. Yet they have like GPS tracking. They have all this high tech computer stuff. So if you're against advancement of technology, you're using some pretty sophisticated networking there. And I just didn't make sense. And you're right. The first half of the film, half, I thought was really good. It started getting really logically bad when they go to Brightwood. Because it's like, okay, you try to tell me you're building this big city, all this stuff here, and it's not on the map at all. So no one's suspicious. Nobody's caring. It's just like, come on, really?
I know. I mean,
you're supposed to be a technology movie. The government is not doing anything. I mean, come on, Scarecrow and Lucius Fox can't do anything about this. That's just that was just this whole movie. The whole time I'm just wondering, where is the government? This is going off into Mexico. Where's everybody at? You know, but of course Rift can find them. Although they're not. The people you don't expect to find them are using technology to find. I don't know.
It did. It kind of flipped itself on its head, which is just kind of interesting. And to me, I kind of wonder how much of it, and to a certain degree, it would make sense to me. But to me, it makes me wonder how intentional some of it was. I mean, there's even a line in the film from Johnny Depp's character where he's talking about that stuff exactly, where the irony of this group that is against For the entire version of our podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher, or check us out online at InSessionFilm.com.